Welcome back, everyone, to the Makers Podcast with Brandon Burns and Todd Pedler. How are you?
Brandon, I'm doing well. Understanding you were in Sydney yesterday. How was that?
It was good. It was raining when I left on the plane in Melbourne.
Mate, we had one of those days in Melbourne that you missed.
Oh, really?
4 seasons in one day. It was
Really?
crazy.
Yeah, well, that makes sense because by the time we arrived in Sydney at 9 a.m, it was like 30 degrees.
Yep.
Sun shining, got up to about 35 and then came back and it was raining again.
Very Melbourne weather then.
Yeah.
For Sydney.
It was like, I wouldn't have believed you said 4 seasons in a day. Today, we are recording from the Teamified HQ office.
I love it here. I love being in the city and like just one level up.
Yes.
Elizabeth Street.
I know.
Bit of action going behind us. Very cool.
Mate, you've got a lot of action happening behind you on Elizabeth and Latrobe Street, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For our US listeners, that means nothing. We're in the heart of the CBD.
We are.
Today's episode, mate, is particularly important because we get a chance to learn more about you, not only what you've been up to across your career, but also more recently. And I want to make sure I get this right. But the latest venture is called Lightrium.
Yes.
And you've actually bought the unit, the prototype, in this year today.
Yes, the prototype's here.
Let's just see if we can show
3D
people
printed.
on camera. Obviously, if you're listening on Spotify and Apple, you can't see, but it's a rectangular shaped device. You probably do a better job of describing it, Todd.
I will. So this is a 3D printed prototype. So it's pre-manufactured, pre-fabrication. So it's made out of an epoxy resin. You can see there are batteries in the bottom there.
Yeah.
But we have these two surfaces that are PV cells, photovoltaic cells that collect solar energy.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of that out of the window today. And then it powers an onboard lithium source, which this front is illumination. So it's a lamp. It has 60 LEDs in it, and it's quite bright. It gets up to about 2,000 lumens, which is about 175 watts of bulb power, which is quite a bright bulb. But it's self-sustaining. So if you sit it in the sun, it's designed for being in front of a window that's east, north, or west facing.
Yep.
It'll charge over a few hours during the day, and then it'll give you free light at night.
Wow.
So this is a concept prototype that we're going to launch, but it's part of a much bigger product design that we have in the pipeline.
Yep. What I'm taking from that is it's quite a compact, lightweight unit.
Yep.
But I'm really impressed about the fact that you only need to charge really for 2 hours of daylight.
Yeah, so in
night.
direct sunlight, it'll charge in about 2 hours. In indirect sunlight, it's more like 4 to 6 hours. So it'll charge on an overcast day, cloudy day, if it's facing a window that gets the sun.
Yeah.
But yeah, certainly in overcast days, which are fairly common, probably every day in Melbourne, it will charge over the course of a few hours. Yeah.
So tell me about the boxes that we're ticking here and why now this product could be a real game changer.
Look, there's some stats that led to wanting to develop this prototype to actually prove we could bring it to market. So a bit of part of that is proving the technology. Not so much, let's go do this, spend a bunch of money and hopefully we'll sell it. It's very much, let's test if we can actually scale the technology from what it is as a prototype. And we've got to this point where we know we can scale the technology now, but we've basically miniaturized. If you think of the average house that has solar cells on the roof, an inverter, and maybe not a battery in the shed, we've essentially miniaturized that electronics infrastructure down to something this big. And this is one of 3 products that we have planned. So the first product is a lamp, which, for a consumer, it makes sense. You see it, you understand it. Yeah, it's easy to your point, connect the dots of what its usability and versatility is. It's literally a lamp you put in your lounge room or a living room or even your bedroom, and it will give you free illumination, and you control it all from your iPhone or your Android device.
Yep.
It comes on at certain times of the evening. It'll run its cycle and then it turns itself off.
Wow.
There's no need to interact with it. It's got its own brain, if you want to think of it that way. And if you have the app installed on your phone, we even do over-the-air updates. So if you've got
Explain that. What's an over-the-air update?
If you're a Tesla driver, you'll know that it'll download new firmware to your car overnight while you're sleeping.
Wow.
And update all the power electronics in the car. So we adopted a similar approach of doing over-the-air firmware updates for this hardware directly from your phone.
Wow.
So And the value of that is, as we sell this product in market, we plan to release a whole range of features and functionality that will allow you to have your Lightrium lamp do different things. So
Yes.
you'll be able to control when it comes on, how long it comes on, how bright it is. And it's almost like a set and forget. It'll illuminate a certain area for a certain amount of time and then it'll turn itself off. So this is the first product. The second product is the one we're more excited about. Not that we're not excited about this. It's been a long journey. It's coming up on nearly 3 years since we first
So from
started.
ideation to prototype,
Yes.
could it have taken quicker, or is 3 years a typical amount of time?
3 years is actually fast.
Right.
And you're designing a ground-up electronics product. A lot of the research and development that goes into designing the electronics and then testing and prototyping and failing and succeeding and failing again, that all adds up.
Yep.
And then on top of that, we were insistent we wanted to build it here in Australia. We didn't want to build it in China. Some of the components have to be made in China, like the PV cells and the batteries are from China, but everything else we're having it manufactured locally here in Melbourne by a plastics manufacturer, and all the electronics design and manufacturing is done here.
So you
in
can
Melbourne
say
as well.
made in Australia.
It's made in Australia.
That's awesome.
And that's a big deal. And to get it to the price point, we're going to sell it for 800 Australian dollars, which includes shipping anywhere in Australia. And we're only selling it in Australia in 2025. Well, we want to sell it globally, but we're just testing to see how it performs locally.
Yep.
So we can control unexpected or things that may arise. So for $800, it's, we've done our best to try and keep the costs as low as possible.
Love it. So speaking of product number 2,
Product number 2 is a roll-up solar panel that you can hang in your window.
so first there was the flip phone, then the bendy screen phone, and now we've got a roll up solar panel.
Right. So 30% of Aussies rent. That's a lot.
Is it always used to be about that, or has it grown a lot recently?
So the cost of power is increasing, and there are different factors for that. But the cost of illumination, which is a small part of your use of energy, we felt there's a market opportunity to build a product that addresses that. But that the scale-up design for this technology is there are 12 panels on this. What would 100 panels or 200 panels look like with this electronics architecture? And that's what we're designing in the second product. So the second product is designed and targeted at consumers who are renting, don't have a landlord who wants to spend $10,000 to $15,000 putting on solar panels on their rental property and putting an inverter in, and not to mention the 10 to 15, closer to 20 grand for a battery. What technology is available for renters to access small to medium tech to help them offset the cost of lighting their home? There's nothing in that space.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah, wow.
if you imagine going online and ordering something that looks like a rolled up sleeping bag, gets shipped to your house,
Yeah.
unroll it, and you attach it to windows like this, and it sits there and harvesting energy, and then it gets stored in a lamp like this, that you effectively have a small scale solar harvesting, charging and illumination system for less than $2,000.
Yeah, wow.
That's sort of the target we're aiming for.
It's an assumption, but are people more aware of investing in things that they can do independently that will start to offset their energy consumption? Because do people just agree that the prices are only going to go up?
I think everyone's very well aware of the cost of energy. And I think, we could have a whole discussion about, well, how do you use renewable energy to offset some of that cost? And that's why we wanted to design and build a product and see how it would perform in the market. But the second product, the solar blanket, or we're calling it the solar surface, is something you can adhere to any window in your home. You could have more than one. You can daisy chain them together, so you can link them together with a USB plug. And if you have enough of them, you could potentially generate up to half a kilowatt of energy. So 500 watts of energy.
I mean, that's going to be game changing for, what comes to mind is some people have a battery, a Tesla battery at home or whatever it is that can get fed into during the day, and then they can use it to then charge the car without using the grid, or they can store energy there better. How would a house implementing these type of products stack up alongside something like that? Because you've got solar on your roof, which is a much bigger capture, yeah?
Solar panels and a solar battery, especially a Tesla battery, I mean, the investment is substantial. I mean, you're looking at $30,000 to $40,000 by the time, you've done all the math and it's implemented. So your return on investment or payback is going to be over many years.
Yeah.
So those who have that infrastructure in place certainly see the dividend paying for itself in the current economic situation where the government's subsidising our use of electricity. So those people are winning. But 1 in 3 Aussies aren't in a position where they can make that financial investment because they're renting. They're living in a dwelling and they have no participation over the decision-making of what happens to that dwelling, which includes how the energy is generated and stored for that dwelling. So this is small scale. So this is very much entry level, testing the electronics to determine, well, can it scale? Do we have, is there enough interest, consumer demand to be able to scale this to our second product?
It sounds like we're getting to a point of more and more transparency with energy usage.
Absolutely.
And consumers having more transparency over that.
Yep.
So where does that likely lead us to when people have more oversight to the actual energy that they're using or wasting?
Yeah, and look, this has been going on for decades. So having solar panels on your roof and batteries, more recent technology, but certainly solar panels have been around for decades, and people understand what it is. But I think, to your point, in a cost of living crisis, which being labelled time and time again, energy is perhaps the number one cost. When it gets to winter, certainly in Melbourne, the cost of heating a home during a Melbourne winter is expensive. Certainly, if you're using energy like gas, less so with energy, but even the cost of electricity, as we all know, is where it's at. An extension to that point is people taking more ownership or power over the energy cost. This is why we've arrived at wanting to build and manufacture and ship a product like this, is that the government's trying to solve this at the macro level. How do we solve energy for all Australians at a macro? And we say, well, the inverse of that is how does the individual homeowner or renter solve their own energy requirements?
Because that's what's going to be important first, isn't it?
Right. So our approach is the inverse of that, sort of the ground up approach to what can the individual do to offset some of their cost or invest in a technology where they're participating in a larger community of other owners and where we harvest all their data and we share it with everyone, but we use it to improve the technology over time. So this is a technology that gives the individual, the homeowner, or the renter control over the technology stack that addresses their own individual energy usage and need versus waiting on the government to solve it at a macro level.
So how long can you expect a device like this to last? Like, are they pretty durable? And
yeah, so we're using batteries that you find in vehicles.
Yep.
We only need 2 of them because it's a small scale, but EVs have 1,800 of these particular batteries. So we've taken just 2 cells and we've put it in this product. They designed the battery life is about 400 to 500 hours. So if you're getting 2 to 3 hours, you'll get 2 years roughly out of the product.
Bad.
But part of our online distribution model is you can buy more batteries from us directly from our website when you need to. But you'll probably get about 2 years out of the batteries that are in this.
How important is battery disposal or battery recycling?
Well, huge. It's great you raise that because once we're in market and we're selling, we actually have a return policy.
Beautiful.
If your batteries die, you can please send them back to us for disposal. That'll be part of the
please send them back to Lightrium Heaven.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Please don't put them in the bin.
Last question I want to ask you is, like with all good businesses and ideas, and you've had so many businesses of your own, what was the aha moment for this particular one that made you go, that'd be a good idea? And then when did you have that moment where you're like, okay, I'm actually going to dedicate my time and follow through on this one?
The aha moment was, could we do this? Is it possible to design and build electronics infrastructure where we could miniaturize what we've all come to take for granted, what's on our roof? Could we do it? And we have.
Yeah.
So that was the, could we do it? The aha moment was, how can we build a consumer product less than $1,000 that has an impact or an immediacy for people who want to use a newer technology for illumination within their home, where they're effectively harvesting the sun for free. It's storing it, and then you're releasing or discharging that energy during the evening to light your home. So that was the aha moment. Could it be done? That's what we want to go and find out. And the big test for us is, we're coming to market in a few weeks, so we haven't even sold any yet, but there is interest, as we've seen. People are saying, well, when it's ready, I want to buy one. But also people are saying, look, when it's ready, I want to help you trial it, test it, in the field and give you feedback. So those are all good things.
And for anyone listening right now who's now seen it and heard about it, what's the furthest they can go right now to participate and get involved?
You can go to lightrium.com and order one.
Okay, so you can pre-order.
You can pre-order.
So lightrium.com.
I think we're going to put some graphics in this.
Yeah, beautiful.
But to your point, people listening, yes, Lightrium.
Pre-order.
We're shipping in Australia only, end of January 25.
Unreal. Anything else to add on Lightrium?
No.
It's pretty self-explanatory. Todd Pedler, thanks for your company here on the Makers Podcast. You are the co-host, so it's great to interview you and hear your story.
Brandon.
Yeah,
Cool.
Can't wait to check out the product. I'm going to pre-order now.
Thank you, mate.
See you guys.